What's up everyone, welcome back to my yoga channel. This is Sanjana Fitness YouTube yoga channel, and today's Hatha yoga practice will be for beginners, of course, and by request we will be focusing on low back pain relief and slowing down. So please feel free to bring a pillow or any bolsters or props that you'll need for this class. This class is going to be mostly self-led and dictated by your pain or discomfort, so just be mindful of that. And as always, I encourage you to listen to your body and make the practice your own. We'll get started on our backs in a comfortable lying position. Feel free to put a pillow right under your lower back, and I will meet you there. Going to the mat, grab your pillow. Get that under your low back if you need to or want to, or if it feels good. You can also just lay on the mat if that feels better. And as a reminder, this practice will be mostly self-led. Just because if you are in discomfort or pain, we don't want to make anything worse, and I cannot diagnose you or treat you. So just use your best judgment in the poses. Find what feels good, don't push your body. And most importantly, we'll just work on slowing down and being present in the sensations of the body. So just noticing what you feel and where throughout the practice. As you start to settle in, you can start to do a little internal inventory of the body and the mind, checking in with the physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual bodies. And just slowly scrolling through all the sensations that you feel, from your toes through your feet, all the way up through the crown of your head. So just very slowly and with intention. I'm not going to guide you through a full body scan, but put your mind's eye in the bottom of your toes and slowly just observe all the way up the feet, through the ankles. Just noticing what you feel and where, and trying to establish that deep connection with the physical body especially. Start to check in with the breath. Just notice your natural breathing rhythm today. Notice the relationship between the body and the breath. And just try to savor and be present in every cycle of breath. So just noticing, observing. We're going to be moving mindfully today, which means moving with intention. Not rushing through any poses or any transitions, trying to savor the movement instead of making each asana the goal. So we're not trying to force any shapes, not too worried about flexibility. Just checking in with and giving care to the body. Feel free to open your eyes if they're closed or keep them closed through the practice and just listen, whatever works for you. You can keep that pillow under your low back or head, wherever it is, or move it to the side if you want to. Once again, just checking in with the sensations of the body, specifically the back. And we're going to start by checking in with the hips, which are very closely connected to the low back. And so we'll start with some hip openers just by bending into that right knee, bringing the sole of the right foot toward the hips, and then crossing that left ankle over that right knee. You can just let your hands rest open, palms toward the sky, not touching the legs yet. You can also just let them rest on the body or wherever is comfortable. And we'll just use that left knee, pull it open. Just the knee itself, not pushing, not forcing anything, just kind of checking in with your strength and mobility in that left hip. Put your mind's eye there, and when you feel good about it, when you feel present there, you can press your fingertips gently into the inside of that left thigh. Again, just checking in, noticing your range without judgment, just observing. And then again, let the sensations of your low back especially dictate how you transition through the next poses. But you can stay here as long as you want, or you can extend through that right knee, raising that right heel toward the ceiling, interlacing the fingertips behind the right thigh, maybe pressing that left elbow into the inner left thigh very gently. And then just bending the elbows, pulling that thigh gently toward the face. Moving mindfully, nice and slowly, noticing, checking in. You can also just sway gently left to right here if it feels good for the hips or low back. You can find stillness. Or you can bend into that right knee and interlace the fingers in front of that right shin. Same thing here, just pulling the elbows, bending the elbows to pull that right thigh toward the face. Try to make sure the back of your head, the back of your upper back are connected to the mat. You're not losing connection there. And again, maybe you just rock gently side to side. Maybe you find stillness, or maybe you're in some other variation. And all of those options are fine. Just listen to your body. Some of these easy or beginner's level hip opening stretches or hip stretches can really help prevent low back pain. So if this is accessible to you, I would encourage it as preventative medicine or preventative care. When you feel good about it, you can slowly release the fingers, let that right foot fall to the mat. Maybe press that left knee open one more time and unravel. You can bring both soles of the feet to the mat, about hip width apart, and just let the knees fall to the left and to the right. Just really casual, really just organic movement here. And then we're going to do the same thing on the second side. So continue if that feels good. Otherwise, we'll cross that right ankle over the left knee this time. Again, no contact from the hands to begin with. Just kind of pulling that right knee open at the hip. And then maybe when you're ready, pressing the fingertips in that inner right thigh, checking in, checking it out, noticing, staying present. And feel free to transition through any of those other variations here at your own pace. You can start by extending through that left knee, bringing the left heel toward the ceiling, and interlacing the fingers behind that left thigh. Check in there. Notice what you feel. Maybe notice what's different or what's the same as the first side. Try to be able to articulate to yourself what you feel and where. You might bend into that left knee if it feels good. Interlacing the fingertips in front of that left shin. Maybe finding stillness here, maybe rocking gently side to side. One of you is not muted, FYI. And just stay here as long as you like, checking in any version of this pose. Always checking in with the hips when we're checking out the low back. When you feel good about it, slowly, gently, mindfully release that left foot to the mat. Take your time to unravel the legs. Savor the movement. Maybe let the knees fall to the left and to the right again. And from here, we're gonna slowly move up to a seated position, so you can get there however is comfortable for you in your body today. I'm just gonna roll up the spine by kicking my heels up. And I'm gonna do that a couple times because I like to do it. So take your time getting up to sitting. Once you're there, we're gonna come into seated forward fold, the butterfly variation. So coming to that upright position, we'll bring the soles of the feet together, let the knees fall apart. The heels do not need to be very close to the body or to the hips. So, I mean, they can be if that feels right, but feel free to give yourself a generous amount of space between the heels and the hips here, especially if you have some discomfort or pain in the low back. So just checking in with the back and letting that guide you. So once we have the soles of the feet together, we'll find that nice long spine, checking in with the posture, just noticing. And then we're gonna fold forward here. You can do that however you would like to. Just do it mindfully, move slowly, listen to your body. I like to just wrap my hands around my toes because my feet are always cold, but don't pull yourself into this shape and don't force this shape. So just let your let your back flex as it does. Find a position that feels comfortable for you. And if you really want to relax into it, you can also just like cuddle your pillow here, relax your head and neck into it. You might find a lot of relief in this pose. So we're going to stay here for a minute, but if this pose is very uncomfortable for you or adds pain to the pain that you're already experiencing, we're going to come into a staff pose next and a seated forward fold. So if this is very uncomfortable, just slide the soles of your feet forward a bit, wrap your arms behind your knees, and let your head and neck relax while the rest of us catch up. So checking in with the breath, enjoying some nice deep inhales, letting something go on your exhale. Taking this time just to turn inward, to notice, to connect. Practicing non-attachment with our thoughts. Just letting those pass by like fall leaves on a river. Just observe and let them go without judgment. Quieting the mind, returning the focus to the breath. If you start to lose focus. Try to be present in the sensations that you feel. Maybe maybe even practice gratitude for those sensations. Slowly bring our awareness back to the body, beginning with the sits bones. And open your eyes if they're closed, or keep them closed and move mindfully as we plant the sits bones, plant the tailbone, tilt the pelvis, curl up through the lumbar spine, then the thoracic, till finally we're rolling the shoulders back, unrolling the cervical spine, checking in with that nice long posture again. Take a deep breath, enjoy that. Then we're gonna send the heels away from the body, just straightening through the legs, moving slowly, gently, mindfully. We'll bring the palms to the mat on the outside of either hip. If this is very uncomfortable, again, just stay in that seated forward fold with knees bent. Just wait there. Otherwise, we're here in this staff pose. Again, getting long through the spine, paying attention to the integrity of the spine. Checking in with your posture, checking in with the fullness of the breath. And then we'll come into our seated forward fold here. So we'll send the fingertips up toward the ceiling, palms facing one another. And then we're going to hinge only at the hips, folding forward over the thighs. Imagine sending your hands beyond the feet, folding down, down, down. Not forcing any shape, just letting the hands fall where they do. We're not pulling or bending into the elbows to force us down toward the mat. You can even open up the palms toward the ceiling on either side of the shins if you want to avoid that urge to pull yourself downward. And again, the variation of this, if this is too uncomfortable, is just to bend into the knees, bring the soles of the feet to the mat, wrap the arms behind the knees. And wherever you are, just enjoy the sensations of this pose. Turn inward, connect with the breath. Let go of your mind chatter. Quiet the mind. Enjoy a few more cycles of breath. Nice deep inhales and complete exhales. Letting something go on your exhale maybe. Reminding your body it's okay to relax. You can bat the eyes open if you have them closed, or keep them closed and just listen if you want to. We're going to start to bring our awareness to the sits bones and curl up in the same way we just did.
And I want to challenge you to move more slowly and with more intention in this transition than you did the last. So try to articulate to yourself what you feel and where. Put your mind's eye in the parts of the body that are moving. Notice what you feel. Stay connected to the breath. And slowly find that nice long spine again, connecting with that deep inhale. We'll take a moment here and then we're going to transition onto all fours. So again, you can get there how you want to get there. Enjoy the journey, enjoy the movement. I'm going to bend into both knees to a cross-legged seat and just roll forward onto all fours. We're coming into tabletop position, so just nice neutral spine, naturally curved spine. Nice and long from the crown of your head to the tip of your tail. And we'll start with a little traditional cat-cow, so palms under the shoulders, knees under the hips. On your inhale, you'll drop the low ribs, tilt the pelvis, lift the gaze, pull the shoulders back. Connect with the breath, and on your exhale, press into the palms. Low ribs come inward toward the spine or toward the ceiling, pressing into the tops of the feet. Really starting to stretch through that whole available articulation of the spine. So move at your own pace. Inhale, drop the belly. Connect with your breath. Exhale, cat. Curling the low ribs inward, stretching through the upper back. And then, of course, as always, feel free to incorporate any variation of this that feels good. Spine can move in a lot of cool ways. So you can pretend that you're inside of a tunnel or a tube or a barrel and just press your ribs along the inside edges of that barrel. Bend into the elbows. Notice what you hear, what you feel. Just observing. Feel free to change directions. Just checking in with the spine and all of the planes of movement available to it. When you feel good about that, come back to that nice neutral spine, that tabletop pose. We're going to come into extended child's pose. If for any reason extended child's pose is uncomfortable or painful, you can do the traditional version, which I'll demonstrate in just a minute. But for our extended child's pose, we'll bring the big toes into touch, widen the knees a little bit, maybe about as wide as the yoga mat. And we're going to send the hips back toward the heels, keeping the arms extended, bringing the chest and forehead down to the mat. Maybe walking those fingertips a little bit further away from the body. And if this variation of child's pose is way too intense in the hips, you can do the traditional version. So for that, you will bring the knees together, bring the shins together, send the hips back toward the heels, bring the forehead to the mat, and then open up the palms next to the soles of the feet. Just relax the shoulders. Whatever variation you're in, connect with the breath. Notice what you feel and where. Try to stay present in and savor every breath. Remind your body it's okay to relax. This is a safe space that you have created for yourself. If you're in traditional child's pose, you can stay there. Feel free to close your eyes if they're not already and just listen. If you're in extended child's pose with the knees wide, toes together, hands forward, we're going to bring our awareness back to the forehead, maybe rock gently side to side. Let's press into the fingertips to lift the arms and forehead off the mat. And then we're going to just walk the hands all the way over to the left. Wherever your range of motion lands you, that's where you are. We'll just fold forward next to or over that left thigh. Same thing, bringing the forehead down to the floor, to the earth, to the mat. Maybe walking those right fingertips a little bit further away. Noticing the sensations of compression in the left hip, the connection to the earth, that long line of energy down the right side of the body, just observing, scanning, noticing what you feel. When you feel good about it, press into those fingertips to once again lift the arms, lift the forehead off the mat. And then we'll walk the hands all the way over to the right side, moving super mindfully. We're not in a hurry. We're never in a hurry. Melting down the forehead. Somewhere near the right knee, right thigh, wherever you land, you land. Honoring your range of motion, reconnecting with the breath, and maybe walking those left fingertips a little bit further away from the body. Noticing that delicious long line of energy from your left fingertips all the way down into that left hip. Breathe deep. Take your time here. When you feel good about it, we'll press into the fingertips one more time to walk the hands back through center. Once your hands are back in the center of your mat, we'll just walk them up toward the body, bringing the knees together. If you're in traditional child's pose, you can slowly curl up to sitting. And we will all meet just sitting on our knees here. We're going to do a little ankle stretch, which comes from yin yoga first. Not that we're focusing there, but just because it feels good. So sitting on with your butt on your heels. You can put your hands on the front. Well, you can put your hands on the tops of your knees, tops of the thighs. And we'll slide that left hand to the front of the left knee. So go ahead and lean forward if you need to do that. And then we're just going to gently lift that left knee by bending into the left elbow, checking in with the posture, rolling the shoulders back, just getting a little stretch through the front of that left ankle. Remember, not forcing any shape or sensation, just checking in and noticing. You can gently release that knee to the mat. Moving mindfully, protecting your body. And we'll do the same thing on the second side, just sliding the right hand to under the front of the right knee, pressing down with your left palm and pulling up with that right hand, right elbow. Take your time here and enjoy. When you feel fulfilled, you can slowly, gently, mindfully release that right knee back to the mat. And I want to do just a little spinal twist here. So we're going to move very slowly and listen to our bodies. If you feel pain in any of these movements, don't do them. Just stay where you are. So moving slowly, gently, mindfully, we'll bring the fingertips to the mat on the outside edges of our hips. And let's bring that right hand to the outside edge of the left thigh. And we'll just swing that left hand around behind us. Bringing the fingertips to the mat somewhere behind the spine, behind the tailbone. Pulling that left shoulder back, sitting up, lifting and twisting if it's in your range today. And if that feels really great, you might also turn your head to look over your left shoulder. Again, not forcing anything, just checking in there. When you release, do so very slowly, gently, and mindfully. We'll come back through center. We're going to do the same thing on the second side. So bringing that right hand around behind us, left hand to the outside edge of the right knee. We'll plant those right fingertips behind us, pull that right shoulder back, sitting up, lifting, and twisting. Maybe looking over that right shoulder. Take your time here. Stay there as long as you want if you enjoy it. And when you're ready to come out, just be very gentle, moving as slowly as you did when you got into the pose. We'll come back through center. And we're going to just come into a little yogi squat from here. So once again, you can get there how you get there. I'm just going to come forward onto all fours, curl the toes under. I'm going to walk the feet a little bit wider than the hips. That's what feels good for me. Anchor down through the hips, bring the elbows to the inside edges of the knees and press the palms together. And then once again, check in with that spinal alignment. So bring your mind's eye to the back. Remember, if this is very uncomfortable, do not continue into the pose. If it feels good, stay here as long as you like. Connect with the breath. Notice what you feel and where without getting overwhelmed by that. Just very practically detach and observe those sensations. From here, we're going to move into one of my favorite poses, the standing forward fold. This is one of my favorite transitions because it's so fluid. So we'll release the palms to the mat to start, just in front of you. We're going to extend through the knees, bringing the hips up toward the ceiling. You can walk the feet in toward one another, back to about hip width apart, shoulder width apart. Working toward full extension in the knees, but if you need a little bend there, that's okay. Mostly we want to be able to relax through the back here, let the spine decompress a little bit. So you can let the hands just fall to the mat. You can even let the palms open up toward the ceiling if that feels good. It's also totally okay if your hands are nowhere near the floor. You can use your bolster or blocks here just to prop you up if you need, no big deal. Mostly we're looking for relief of discomfort or pain in the low back. So bend into the knees as you need to, use blocks as you need to. Otherwise, once you've settled into this pose, you can bend into the elbows, clasp opposite biceps with opposite hands. You can just sway gently left to right, or in kind of this half moon shape around the feet. If you want a little more stretch through the posterior chain, you can lift the feet and just slide your palms under the feet. Or wherever you are, let's make sure you're nice and relaxed through the shoulders, the upper back, the lower back. Trying to bring those low ribs in to meet the tops of the thighs. If you do find relief in this pose, I would just encourage you to try all the variations. Maybe you're walking the hands over to frame the right side of the right foot. Same thing on the left. This is a really good pose to explore in if it doesn't bring you any pain. A lot of people tend to find low back relief from this pose. So again, take your time there. If it feels good, stay as long as you like. This is a pose that I do several times per day just because it's good for the body and it feels great. So feel free to come back to it if it suits you. From here, we're going to transition back into that yogi squat. So we'll walk the toes and heels out toward the edges of the mat, letting the toes spill off the mat and point away from each other a little bit. And we're just going to bend into the knees again, lowering the hips all the way back down to the mat, bringing palms together in front of the heart space, pressing the elbows into the knees, noticing what you feel. I'm going to recenter myself on the mat here for the next transition. If you're very far toward one edge of the other or the other, feel free to center yourself too. Take a moment here, checking in. And then we're gonna do another one of my favorite transitions here, from yogi squat to boat pose. So I'm going to demonstrate that a couple of times. We're going to move slowly and with intention, not forcing anything. You're going to try not to touch the ground with your hands. Try to keep your hands in front of you and drop the hips to the mat. From here, we're going to try to bring the feet together, raised in front of us, opening the palms up toward the ceiling, parallel to the floor. But you can also just bring your hands to behind the knees if you need to start there. Find some stability, find some support. Take your time here. When you're building balance, you're typically building core strength. So if you're challenging your balance, you're getting stronger. And if this variation is super accessible to you, you can also try extending through the knees, which I'm not great at, and balancing on the sits bones. Wherever you are, feel free to play around and explore. Again, if it's uncomfortable for the low back, just let it go. Not every pose is for you, and that's okay. When you're ready, you can release the soles of the feet to the mat. We'll extend long through the legs here. Feel free to recenter. Do what you gotta do. We're gonna do another variation of a spinal twist. So if the first one was uncomfortable for you, do not move into this. You can just do your seated forward fold here or bent knee seated forward fold here for that low back relief. If you're ready to do a spinal twist, we're gonna start by bending into that right knee, tucking it in toward the body. Really bringing that right heel in toward the hip, maybe sitting up here, just checking in first. And then using your hands, we can bring that right foot to the outside edge of the left thigh. So once again, just extending through that right knee a bit, bringing that left foot to the outside, that right foot to the outside edge of the left thigh. And again, tucking that in, pulling that into the body. You want to try to hook it in with your left elbow. So wrap that left elbow around that right knee, pull it in really tight to your body. And then we'll swim that right hand all the way around behind us, planting the fingertips on the ground once again.
Sitting up, lifting, and pulling that right shoulder back. Maybe looking over the right shoulder if it's accessible and if it feels good. Take your time, reconnect with the breath. And when you're ready, and only when you're ready, we'll slowly swing back through center. Moving with control, not like a slingshot. Using your hands again to unravel the legs, sending that right leg out long. So you know what we're going to do? The same thing on the second side. So we're going to bend into that left knee, bringing the left heel all the way in toward the hip, tucking it in. Checking in there, noticing what you feel and where. And then using the hands to bring that left foot this time to the outside edge of the right thigh. Once again, pulling it in tight to the body. We'll wrap that right elbow around the left knee, left shin, and swing that left hand gently around behind you, planting the left fingertips and pulling the left shoulder back. Take your time in this pose. If it feels good, stay there as long as you'd like. If it gives you relief, stay there as long as you'd like. Reconnect with the breath. And slowly, gently, mindfully release that left hand back through center when you're ready. Use the hands to unravel that left leg. Left leg goes out long in front of us, and from here we're going to transition into our cool down poses, which should be mostly self-led, but I'll of course offer some suggestions. So you can come onto your back, however you get there. Just move mindfully with intention. Take your time getting there. Once there, we can check in once again with those hip opening stretches that we used in the very beginning. So if that felt good, if you got some sensation or relief from that, or if you want to be proactive about low back pain in the future, it could be good to check in again with that series of hip opening stretches that we did in the beginning. Feel free to check in there. We can also come into a happy baby pose if you want to check in again in the hips, bringing the soles of the feet toward the ceiling, bringing the fingertips, the palms to the bottom of the feet, or hooking the index and middle finger around the big toe and pressing the knees down toward the earth, not forcing any shape. If the feet are totally inaccessible, you can also hold the ankles or the backs of the thighs, and you could just stay here in stillness, or you can rock left to right. Just notice how that changes the sensations of the pose. And one other pose that I would recommend before we finish is just a little banana stretch. So we'll extend the legs out long for that if you want to do that. Put one heel in each of the bottom corners of the mat. And we'll put one wrist in each of the top corners of the mat. And we'll start by pressing into the heels, shifting the hips over to the left side of the mat a little bit, just an inch or two, whatever's accessible. And then we'll cross that left ankle over the right. And then we're going to bring that left wrist to the right palm. So grabbing that left wrist with your right hand. We're going to kind of press that left hip down toward the mat and pull that left wrist up and overhead. So you're kind of making this big crescent moon shape, touching the two right corners of the mat. And hopefully connecting with that long line of energy from the left heel, left ankle, all the way up through the left wrist.
Checking in with the breath. Take your time on this side, especially if it feels great. When you're ready to transition to the second side, you'll set up the same way. So just in reverse order, letting go of that left wrist, bringing it back to the top left corner of the mat, shifting the hips back to the center of the mat, moving that left heel over to the bottom left corner of the mat. So you're back in this star shape, kind of. So from here we can shift the hips a little bit to the right, just an inch or two, or wherever they'll go. We'll cross that right ankle over the left ankle. So keep that left ankle in the bottom left corner of the mat. And we'll bring that right wrist into the left palm, grabbing that right wrist, pulling it up and overhead, and really pressing that right hip toward the right side of the mat. Reconnect with the breath. Feel free to close your eyes if it feels good. Remember, you can use any of these poses in isolation for relief if they feel good or really help you connect to the body. You don't have to do a full hour of yoga to get some of the benefits. You can just do 5-minute snacks of yoga throughout the day and still get a lot of positive, proactive health benefits from it. So if you connected with any one of these poses, you really liked any one of these poses, I would encourage you to do that pose throughout your day. When you feel good here, we will release everything and come back through center. Get comfortable on the mat. Settle into Shavasana, our final resting pose. Opening up the palms toward the ceiling or just resting them on the body. You can bring that pillow to the low back if you need to, or under the head if it feels good. It's your practice. Make it your own. And as we wind down the practice, we'll just absorb the nutrients of our practice today, noticing the sensations of the body, noticing how you feel in the mind, emotionally, spiritually, etc. Just observing without judgment whether anything's changed. Try not to rush through the final moments of your practice. The meditative part is maybe the most important part. Not that they're all not important, they are. Try to enjoy these last few moments, savor these last few cycles of breath in this little bubble of self-care that you've created for yourself. Take a few more moments just to turn inward, quiet the mind. Feel supported by the earth. I typically end these classes with a land acknowledgement, and I'm embarrassed to say that I'm in a new location, you might have noticed. And I do not yet know whose lands I am on, so next week I'll have that land acknowledgement ready for you. If you want to join me in closing the practice, feel free to bring your palms together to rest gently at the forehead or third eye, or anywhere on the body, whatever feels right for you, really. So we also want to recognize that yoga is an ancient spiritual practice that comes from Indian culture. So we recognize and honor that cultural heritage without appropriation. We also recognize that yoga has many functions for other cultures of the world, including as a community. I thank you so much for being part of my community today. Hope you got something you needed here today, and I hope to see you again soon. Namaste.
Feel free to join our class live virtually every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time at sanjanafitness.com.